Hi, my name is Amanda Stansel. We represent Team 1 for Procter & Gamble. My teammates are Carly Ayala, Hannah Doe, and Alyssa Lindsay. I will be giving you an introduction to Procter & Gamble's company. So Procter & Gamble has been around for 180 years and is a global leader in the consumer goods industry. So they are very well known for its wide range of trusted brands and products. A few segments that they are involved in is fabric and home care, baby products, feminine and family care, beauty, healthcare, and grooming. Now, we see these products every day in your local grocery store and really all over. So, the company sets itself apart from their competitors such as Unilever, Colgate-Palmolive, and Kimberly-Clark through its impressive ability to innovate and adapt to market changes. So now we're going to talk about Procter & Gamble's strategies. We're going to start with the business section. So Procter & Gamble uses a business level strategy based on differentiation, which means they mainly focus on creating high quality and innovative products that stand out from their competition. Instead of trying to compete on price, Procter & Gamble puts a lot of effort into branding, product performance, and innovation. This helps build trust with consumers and adds real value to their experience. This approach has worked well because many of people are willing to pay more for products they know and trust. Procter & Gamble's investment strategy supports its focus on differentiation. They invest a lot on research and development and marketing and brand communication, and they also invest into their employees. Now, despite these investments, Procter & Gamble faces external threats such as superstore branded products, competitors' products, economic instability, price changes in raw materials, changes in consumer behavior, and rules and trade regulations. Procter & Gamble handles these threats due to their strong brand reputation, global presence, and consistent investments in its innovation and supply chain management. Now, we're going to dig a little bit into the corporate level now. So Procter & Gamble owns 30 companies, oversees 10 different categories of products, and has 5 sector business units. Procter & Gamble controls 100 divisions globally. They lean on these divisions and consolidation for their corporate structure. Procter & Gamble understands they are in a demanding market and it needs to adapt to their customers' needs. Procter & Gamble trade and exchange resources, beating their competitors and creating their own. Procter & Gamble also buys products that are already successful or has the potential to be. There are many benefits from synergizing. Without trade and exchange, they wouldn't own all the brands that they do. With the array of products and different demands for each category, it benefits them and supports their strategy. Now we're going to be discussing the 5-force analysis. We're going to start with the threat of new entrants. So the threat of new entrants is fairly low in the consumer goods industry. Starting a business in this field requires substantial financial resources to establish and build brand recognition, creating distribution systems, and setting up production facilities. Procter & Gamble's well-established brand and extensive market presence makes it tough for new entrants and companies to enter. Additionally, new entrants would face intense competition from established, long-standing leaders, which would make it difficult to gain market share. So the next thing we're going to discuss is bargaining power of suppliers. So Procter & Gamble depends on a wide network of global suppliers to obtain raw materials needed for its products. Overall, suppliers hold a moderate level of bargaining power. Procter & Gamble's massive size and purchasing volume gives it an ability to secure great deals. However, certain raw materials, like chemical and natural resources, means that they are more limited supplier options, which allow those suppliers to leverage in its negotiations. Now we're going to be discussing threat of substitute products or services. In this case, it is high. As consumers' taste shift and innovations accelerate, alternatives such as organic and natural products pose a threat to these established brands. Procter & Gamble is vulnerable in areas like beauty, personal care, and household cleaning, where smaller brands are rapidly growing. The rise in demand for eco-friendly products is also posing a risk. Alternatively, most consumers are cutting back on spending on big brands and have become more frugal, which poses a major threat to Procter & Gamble. Lastly, we're going to talk about industry rivalry. So Procter & Gamble operates in a highly competitive industry where it faces pressure from major rivals like Unilever, Colgate-Palmolive, and Kimberly-Clark. These companies offer comparable products across many categories and compete aggressively through pricing strategies and marketing efforts. As a result, Procter& Gamble must stay ahead by consistently innovating and investing in promoting their brand to maintain market dominance. Now, I'm going to let Alyssa Lindsay take over.
Hey everybody, my name is Alyssa Lindsay, and I'm going to be going over our external analysis today, covering the opportunity and threats, and then also the internal analysis to talk about the strengths and weaknesses of Procter and Gamble. Okay, so first I'm going to go over the external analysis opportunities. The first one that I'd like to speak about today is the social media advertising market. It is expected to grow from 2024 to 2029 annually 10.78%. And then the next one that I'd like to talk about is the emerging markets in India and Brazil. So they have both become very popular acquisition destinations and merger destinations. They're usually in sectors like consumer goods, technology, and energy.
The sound on my phone is not working, so I had to switch cameras. But I was on opportunity number three. 77% of responding brands from across the world said that they have increased collaboration, and nearly 9 out of 10 of them are forming new partnerships and will be important for their objectives in 2024. Also, I'm going to talk about the health and wellness product industry. Um, for them, which is part of Procter and Gamble's industry, influencers are one of the main reasons why they have been shaped so well. A lot of people are online or promoting and advertising products for money and brands for money as well in their videos or just day to day. That included TikTok Shop actually. So TikTok Shop has become very popular in 2024. They've actually raised over $600 million in the US industry globally. Um, and then, so the next opportunity that I like to talk about goes along with this. 75% of Gen Z consumers prefer to purchase products through social media and online instead of actually going in store. Um, Another thing that is also helping this industry right now and is blowing up is AI. So a lot of people are adopting AI into their businesses. 88% of global retailers are implementing AI-driven tools in 2024, actually. Um, and then the last thing that I want to talk about are global consumers. 44% of e commerce uses quick search products to filter out what they're actually looking for online, and 62% of those consumers are using AR to scan products in the United States. The next thing I'm going to be talking about are Procter and Gamble's external threats. To external threats. Um, One of the big risks in switching to online or starting to sell products online are cyber incidents. These are leading to risk globally, such as cybercrime, IT failure, outages, breaches, and fines and penalties forecasted to grow consistently in the next coming years, especially with more people joining selling products online. This would be a big risk for the companies that decide to do that, but it also can be an opportunity to be able to open up your store because if you are online, more people globally can also reach your store, possibly lead into opening stores around their area as well. Um, and then the second threat is changing regulations and expecting to um, or them just expecting to keep changing. It's seen to be able to increase from 19% in 2024 to 25% in 2025. Um, and then market developments and new entrants rose from 11% in 2023 um, to 13% in 2024 and are expected to grow 14% in 2025. And then also, almost half of consumers in the United States have already switched to more affordable alternatives from other brands because of the proposed tariffs. So, a lot of people will go for more of like the store brand or something like that just because it is cheaper. So, that is a big risk as well with having good quality products and charging more for them. Um, but you do get what you pay for. Um, some people will choose the more expensive products if they are better quality. Um, and then global inflation is a big risk as well in 2024. It was estimated to reach 5.76% and continues to climb. The consumer goods market is also projected to reach 4.5 trillion by 2025 and is heavily dominated by major competitors, intensifying the competition. And then the last threat that was in the external analysis that we did was nature catastrophes. They're expected to increase with perceived threats rising from 26% in 2024 to 29% in 2025. The next thing that I will go to is our internal analysis on strengths and weaknesses. Moving on to strengths and weaknesses for the internal analysis for Procter and Gamble, I'm first going to start with the strengths. So Procter and Gamble has been around for 187 years compared to its competitors. So it is very strong in just staying alive and well and being able to outlive a lot of its competitors. And then having that good, like having a quality and a good brand and recognition over the years is very important as well. And then Procter and Gamble's net margin is actually 17.37% compared to Kimberly Clark's corporation, which is one of their competitors, is only 12.69%, and then Clorox is 3.95%. The industry average is 15.53%. So for Procter and Gamble, they are above the net margin average for their industry. And then for the next strength, 80% of Procter and Gamble's consumer packaging is designed to be recyclable and reusable, which is one of their many environmental sustainability goals. Um, Trying to do better and be more eco-friendly is very important and is very popular. And some people even look for that in their brands, knowing that they could be recyclable or reusable or just being eco-friendly in general. The next strength for Procter and Gamble is they have adapted to the latest technology. They are using an AI for enhanced efficiency, creativity, and customized solutions to evolve the customer demands and drive market growth. A lot of companies use AI for help on their websites and everything like that. Um, and then also, Procter& Gamble's next strength internally is their annual revenue. It grew by 2.48% compared to Kimberly Clark was negative 1.83. Clorox was negative 4.01, and Colgate Palm Olive is 1.79. And then Procter& Gamble ranked number one in the 2024 Advantage Report Global Scorecard for the 10th year in a row for safer supply chain excellence. And then last but not least, the strength for Procter and Gamble sells products in more than 180 countries and holds a large distribution channel for large retailers like Walmart and e-commerce stores like Amazon as well. So those are all of our strengths for the internal analysis, and now I will go on to the weaknesses for Procter and Gamble. I am going to go over the weaknesses for the internal analysis for Procter and Gamble. So the first thing I like to start with is the inventory turnover ratio. It has actually been declining over the past few years. In 2021, it was 6.44. 2022, 6.50, 2023, 6.09, 2024, it was 5.76. So it has decreased over the years. And then short-term obligations for Procter and Gamble were 0.73, and all of their competitors were a little bit higher than them. Like K&B, it was 0.80, CLX was 1.03, and the industry average is 0.80, and P&G is below the average for their industry. The next weakness was the reliance on North America's market for sales. North American accounts for 52% of the 2024 net sales for Procter and Gamble on their annual report. So them being dependent on North America makes to be weaker in other countries that they work in as well. So then the fourth weakness is the corporate net sales. They decreased 164 million due to a decrease in net sales of incidental business managed at corporate level, and that was on the P&G annual report. And then the fifth weakness I'd like to talk about are the accounts receivable for 2024. They were 6.11 billion, and then 11.83 increase from 2023. And then K&B and CLX inventory turnover rate exceeds Procter & Gamble's. K&B's inventory turnover rate is 6.74 and CLX is 6.04, while P&G is only 5.76. And then last but not least, Procter & Gamble has a lower return on equity. It's 29.78% than its peer average, which is 419.12%. So that was a wrap for the internal and external analysis. Now I'm going to pass this on to my team member, Carly Ayala.
This is Carly Ayala, and today I'll be discussing the SWOT analysis, what it is, and then later I'll be discussing the corporate social responsibility and ethic environment. So a SWOT analysis, what it is consists of 4 different categories that all are essential to help the company to move forward and grow as a company. So it is a strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So for the strength, we all agreed and analyzed that for P&G, their strengths are strong financial performance, global persistence, innovation and research development, brand loyalty, versatile product, environmental sustainability goals, and supply chain excellence. Next, we'll be discussing weaknesses. For weaknesses, P&G is reliance on mature markets, high operating costs, limited focus on smaller markets, legal and regulatory risk, complex product lines, and risk of negative publicity. Next, P&G's opportunity is expansion into growing markets, e-commerce expansion, collaboration with other content creators, following trends in health and wellness products, partnering with other companies, technological advancements, and changing customer preferences. Next, we'll be discussing threats. Threats would be intense competition, unstable economy, price fluctuation in raw material, supply chain disruption, regulatory and trade barriers, changing consumer behavior, and global and political risk. So moving forward, we're going to discuss corporate social responsibility and ethical environments. So Procter & Gamble is anchored by its worldwide business conduct manual, which serves as the company's code of ethics. This manual established global standards for legal and ethical responsibilities applying to all employees and board members. It also sets expectation for suppliers and business partners to adhere to relevant aspects of manual. The company's core value are integrity, leadership, ownership, passion for winning, and trust. These values are reinforced through mandatory training on the WBMC for all employees, ensuring personal and accountability for compliance. To foster an environmental trust, and Procter & Gamble encourages employees to report any known or suspected violation. The company also provides 24-hour, 7 days a week, anonymous helpline managed by independent third parties to facilitate this process. Procter & Gamble CSR initiatives are comprehensive, focusing on environmental sustainability, community engagement, and ethical and governance. By inserting sustainability and ethical practices into its operations, Procter & Gamble not only meet the regulatory requirements, but also build trust with consumers and stakeholders. One of these environmental sustainability goals is to aim to be net zero greenhouse gas emission across its supply chains and operations by 2040. This company actively monitors supplier compliance with its reasonable sourcing expectation. This includes conducting social audits, and Procter & Gamble reserve the rights to discontinue relationship with any supplier that fails to meet those expectations. Procter & Gamble sets clear expectations for its suppliers through detailed guidelines that emphasize ethical conduct, legal compliance, and social responsibilities. These guidelines are cover areas such as conflict of interest, anti-bribery, and corporation policy, information security, and workplace safety. Suppliers are expected to adhere to these standards to ensure integrity and accountability through the supply chains. Next, Hannah will be discussing the global approach and the recommendation strategies.
Hello, my name is Hannah Doe, and I'm going to be talking to you about Procter & Gamble's global approach and some strategies that we as a team suggest. First, I'm going to start off with their global approach. Procter & Gamble is a major player in the consumer goods industry. They operate in about 70 countries, and their products reach about 180 countries worldwide. Now, even though they are this widespread, there's still room for them to continue growing into more markets. If we look back to 1999, we'll see that their net sales were about $18.98 billion, and most of that came from North America. Now, things are a little bit different. International markets makes up about 48% of Procter & Gamble's total revenue, and that just shows how much they've grown globally over the years. One of the reasons why they were able to expand like this was their use on transnational strategy, and this allowed them to be efficient on a global level while still adapting to local customer preferences, and this allowed them to stay relevant and competitive in different parts of the world. To get into new markets, Procter & Gamble often used methods like joint ventures, which allowed them to partner with local companies. Internally, they would use what's called sector business units. This helped to manage product development, marketing, and supply chain operations. Now, while Procter & Gamble has done really well globally, there's still companies like Colgate-Palmolive that has a stronger presence in some areas. So there's still room for Procter & Gamble to expand in emerging markets like India or Southeast Asia or Africa. Though, of course, going global does have its risks like geopolitical tension or currency shifts. But Procter & Gamble's flexible and adaptive approach has helped them manage these challenges. Now let's move into the strategies that Procter & Gamble can focus on to continue growing and improving. Procter & Gamble has been around for nearly 2 centuries, and during this time, they built a reputation for quality, innovation, and trust. And that's helped them stay at the top, even through tough competition and changes in consumer behavior. But no company is perfect. Procter & Gamble still has a few areas that they need to improve on. For example, they have seen a decline in inventory turnover, and they're still very heavily reliant on mature markets like North America. And now I'm going to give you a few strategies that could help Procter & Gamble improve. Firstly, if they improve inventory management systems, this would help reverse the drop in inventory turnover. This would also help boost cash flow, and it would also help them operate more efficiently. Secondly, if they focus on fast-growing international markets like India, Southeast Asia, and Africa, this would help reduce dependence on slower-growing regions and help bring in more customers. A third strategy is as global risks continue to grow, Procter & Gamble should focus on making its operations more resilient by improving things like cybersecurity and building a more flexible supply chain. This could include things like using a wider range of suppliers or increasing automation and preparing backup plans for unexpected disruptions. All of these steps would help Procter & Gamble by making them stay strong during tough times and keep delivering products without major delays. Lastly, they could offer more affordable and environmentally friendly products. With consumers becoming more eco-conscious and price-sensitive, this could help Procter & Gamble build their market share while still keeping their values on trust and quality. And considering today's global risks like cyber threats and supply chain issues, it's very important that Procter & Gamble continues to strengthen their resilience and improve their long-term strategies. This could mean investing more in cybersecurity or building up local production to avoid major disruptions. And taking these proactive steps will help Procter & Gamble stay stable during global uncertainty. In the end, Procter & Gamble has a strong foundation and the right mindset to continue leading their industry. Their future success depends on how well they adapt to these new trends and how they respond to challenges and how they stay true to their mission of improving lives through their products. And with the right balance of innovation, global awareness, and responsibility, Procter & Gamble is in a great position to continue to grow even more in the upcoming years.